Hello and welcome to another episode of the Socially Numb Podcast. I am your host, Richie Leahy. Now we're getting into it, breaking down. We mentioned before, no sports. Check out Southbound Sports if you want to hear the sports aspect. We are 100% focused on tech and gaming and how it affects culture or whatever. The site has been split apart. There's still going to be some moving pains coming through. I'm making sure everything's set up. We are going to be moving the feed for the podcast. So if you don't see an episode show up, we're still releasing them. It might just be that your station or your provider, whoever that you listen through, didn't update yet. And that's something that I'm working through. I'm going to have the old feed up, and it's probably going to drop off next week so that I can go ahead and move that 100% to the new location and keep that going in the future. So with that, look for that. Be patient, please, as we go ahead and transition the sports section off of Socially Numb. Dad Strength, which was going to be, or used to be brought to you by Socially Numb, has now been changed, has its own domain, it's its own show, has a video component, so check that out. I'll be doing videos on Socially Numb, so it's probably going to be something that it's not going to be tied in with the podcast. So if you're just a podcast fan, they are just extra tech videos. I was going to go ahead and embed them inside of the podcast posts, but I don't think I'm going to do that actually. I think just to keep it simple for you guys, I'm going to go ahead and probably just create a videos tab in the menu that shows like the most 4 or 5 or whatever recent videos. That way, if you want to check them out, you can go ahead and check them out. If you don't want to, no big deal. I don't want to alienate any of the podcast-only listeners, but I'm still going to be bringing you the content. You'll have a chance to do both. I'll probably link to them. If you want to keep up on both sides of things, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I have been updating the links to make sure that everything's pointing in the correct direction. So if you don't see our YouTube channel in the footer, if it's not linking to the right place, just give it a few days to be updated. And all of those are going to go ahead and be updated. I'm also linking to my Twitter and things to keep up to date with because the Socially Numb Twitter has been changed to Southbound Sports, and I'll be tweeting the tech and gaming news directly from my Twitter, Richie Leahy. So check that out. Keep up to date with us, and we hope you like the new format. I know tech and gaming, it's been getting a lot more viewers for us analytic-wise. And so I wanted to keep that separate, and that was the main point of the site in the first place. And I have been looking into getting some video game streams up, whether it be live reviews or if it's just going to be playing a game and going with one game only, just as an extra content portion of the site. But I don't know. It comes down to the developers, which ones let you do it, because I don't want to have negative copyright marks on my account or anything like that. So if you know any games that do not give you copyright marks against your YouTube account or anything, please let me know, even if it's a game that is kind of unknown and we can build a community around it, maybe something that we get some listeners together and we can hold playing parties like once a week or something. That would be cool for me. So let me know. I'm going to be doing my digging around. My original idea was to play retro games, and I don't know if they take those down or not. It depends. I'm guessing they're still under copyright law because if I was going to do like the NES games through my console, I actually do have a video capture device, which would be the truest sense of playing through a game, but I have a feeling that I'd get better performance just running from an emulator. I don't know, but that's something I'm looking into. I just don't want to get any negative strikes against my account or anything like that. Not because I'm worried about it. I would just rather be 100% legal since I'm doing this from a site aspect, sort of as a setup through my personal business. So help me out if you know anything. Let me know, and I'll look into it. I think Minecraft lets you do it. I don't know if that was before. I think Microsoft bought them. So if it was beforehand, that might not be the truth anymore. So it's something that I'm going to go ahead and check out. And like I said, if you have any games that you know let you play them, please let me know, and we can go ahead and look into getting that rolling. And the first thing I'm going to talk about today, because I'm going to bring some culture aspects back, some trends to the site, is I've been cleaning out my house a little bit, getting ready because I now have dual TVs, and this is going to help with the gaming aspect of the podcast, because now I have a dedicated television for gaming. And up to this point, I had like a small monitor that I was using. So I had a monitor set up that was changed as like an extension of my laptop or whatever, so I could do work on it on a bigger screen. And I also had an HDMI to DVI converter that ran my PlayStation 3, and my PlayStation 4 was on the main TV. But with that set up, you can't watch sports and play video games, so I was either making my choice of playing video games and watching sports on a small tablet, or playing some type of handheld game with like the 3DS. I had some Zelda games that I haven't beaten yet, and maybe a tablet game like Super Mario Run. So I went ahead and got another large screen, high definition television. Now, I originally went out to see what stores had holiday television still available, because it's the middle of January. You know they're going to have some sales that didn't actually sell. So I went out there and went ahead and just checked a couple different stores. We're looking at TVs. My main TV right now is only 1080p. I know they try to push the 4K, but you know as a tech guy that they don't even broadcast 4K transmissions really anywhere. Some stations don't even do high definition. Most sports I still think are shot in 780 or 720p, so they're not even full HD. And so you'll see some of the ghosting effects. They're just usually shot 720p to keep the bandwidth down, as they need to shoot at a higher frame rate so that you can see what's going on with a lot of action, especially a sport like hockey, where you have to track the puck and it's going 100 miles an hour, or even baseball. So they get over that by shooting at a lower definition to keep the speed transmissions able to be up. And they haven't got the signals up to 1080p yet. They are able to do it now with technology, especially if you switch to like a fiber channel and you're doing like fiber internet and you have like Sling TV or something. They could go ahead and send that to you. Now, some of the video hosting companies, I think with Vudu, they have the ultraviolet where you buy a movie and then you get it forever on any of their channels, which is great. And I think now, once the publisher goes ahead and upscales their videos to 4K, they replace them on Vudu, you automatically get that version if you already bought the movie. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Now, on the downside, if a new movie comes out, they try to sell you the definition size. So you're not grandfathered in if you have their HDX or whatever. So now you have to purposely buy the 4K video if you get it. So at this point, just getting the dual TVs up and running, I was just going to pick up a cheap unit, something that I would have for a few years, and then hopefully upgrade to 4K. Well, I get there. They're out of all the regular super cheap TVs, but they have one that's modestly priced. That's a 4K television. It's one of the Roku televisions. I wasn't 100% sure on getting it, but it had almost a perfect rating, and it was bigger than what I was going to get. It's a 55-inch television I got for a couple $100, like $300 or $400 cheaper than what it was in list, and what was on for sale on Amazon. And on the box, it said like holiday unit, last sale, whatever. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take a gamble on it. I brought it home. Worst case scenario, it's dead on arrival. And for the price point, I have to go get like a cheaper knockoff television or try to get a store credit or just get refunded and check another store. Well, I got it. And so far, it's been a great television. The only thing that I have to knock it is I can't manually add channels for some reason on this television. So I don't know what Roku's up to, but I need to be able to manually add channels, because where I live, you have multiple signals in Raleigh crossing. And if I have my antenna facing one way, I think it comes down to the two channels that are hard to get are ABC and I think CBS now. It used to be NBC, but I think they got bought. The main tower got bought by NBC. And so CBS kind of got pushed down to this weaker tower. And I don't understand it, because our PBS has the best signal out of any of these big corporations. and there's no reason for it. So you can't tell me that CBS can't upgrade their signal when PBS is sending out great content, especially for children. As a parent, they have the PBS content. I can get in a thunderstorm. Doesn't matter. I still get the signal. It's like the strongest channel we get. And now I have to fight for ABC and NBC. So, or CBS, I guess it is now. They bought the tower. And so I can't manually add them. So I can scan it. I can face my antenna one way, scan it, and get one channel. Or I can twist it the other way, scan it, and get the other channel. And there's no way for me to manually go ahead and do it. So like every time I'd want to move the antenna, I would have to rescan my television. So that doesn't make sense. So Roku, please, in an update, go ahead and add that feature. I want that feature. And so anyway, I've been hanging up the television, cleaning up the house, and I stumble upon one of the lost tech relics, a Mac SuperDrive. And if you don't know what a Mac SuperDrive is, if you have a MacBook or get a Mac computer, for some reason they keep trying to get their devices thinner and thinner. They do it with the phone, because what did they lose last? They took out the audio jack, and they said, well, people wanted a thinner phone. I don't know anyone that wanted a thinner phone. It must be like something they're trying to get out there. Because in the first place, the phones were already bending. They bend in your pocket just like your key would. If it's all against your leg all day, walking, it's hitting it, your phone's starting to bend. And then mine hasn't been bent because I have a hard plastic case on it. So to offset their super thin phones that they're making, I have to buy a big bulky case anyway. Why not just make a little bit thicker of a phone, keep the audio jack, and have the steel or aluminum, whatever it is, put a piece of steel in there so that it doesn't bend, make it harder so that I don't have to wear a case with a screen protector, and even add a lip, because you're Apple. Add a lip in your case so that you can go ahead and put the Gorilla Glass screen protector on or whatever, and sell it proprietary. Why let these third-party companies come in and then people have to buy these huge bulky cases anyway to protect your phone because you wanted to make it thinner for some god-awful reason? I don't know. So the same thing with the laptops. They keep making the laptops thinner and thinner. So the one thing they did was they got rid of a CD drive inside the machine. And that's fine because I don't really use CDs. But when I was teaching at a tech school before, we had classes and projects where they needed to have like certain experience doing like burning DVDs and things like that. So I had to go ahead and I got one. And it's been laying around. I barely use it, but it's still, the point is these are very expensive machines. So like when I'm doing budget stuff, I have to have money in my budget to buy an extra piece of equipment to get my computer to work how it should work in the first place. And like the MacBook Pros, they're thin enough. It's about the same thickness as the SuperDrive. So they could theoretically put it in here somewhere, because I have a feeling if I open this up, there's some empty space in this chassis that I can go ahead and find room for the SuperDrive. But that's my big one for this week. I was disappointed in getting the SuperDrive because it doesn't even read Blu-ray. You have to buy a separate DVD, CD drive, or Blu-ray drive actually, to get your computer to read Blu-rays. And then Apple doesn't even have the proprietary software. So basically, they are kind of pigeonholing you in, and they hope people buy iTunes movies, I guess. I mean, Blu-ray's been around for probably a decade now or so, maybe even more. And they can't get it licensed in this Apple computer to have a reader. I think Sony made it for the PlayStation 3 maybe. Wow, if the PlayStation 3 is that old, I don't know. But either way, Apple should have a chance to get that license. Everyone else does it. Windows does it. So it's a strike against the Mac. They make you buy this proprietary software. I'm tired of proprietary software. It doesn't make sense to me. They want you to keep buying things. You get nickel and dimed all the way through. And that leads me to the big topic for today. Speaking of proprietary software, last Thursday, I think in America, in the East Coast here, they did the Nintendo Switch announcement. And if you've been listening to the podcast, it's something I've been talking about for a while now. Growing up, having Nintendo consoles, that being my company of choice as a kid, like every time a new Nintendo came out, great. Did I want a Genesis? No, not really. Did I want a Dreamcast? No, not really. Did I want a PlayStation? No, not really. I did switch to PlayStation 2 for a little bit. Was disappointed in that. And then over time, as I got a job and became an adult, I was able to go ahead and I get two now. Usually I get the Nintendo console and I get the Sony console to play both games because Nintendo first-party software is always the best. They have the best first-party games, hands down. Zelda, Mario, and they've been recycling them for a while now, which is disappointing, but that's another story, another time. And then Sony goes ahead and they have enough specs to go ahead and get the rest of the software. I know I missed out on some Xbox first-party software, and I've talked about getting one before, but a lot of the bad press they get and the bad deals I've had with Microsoft in the first place, it just doesn't make sense for me to go ahead and put myself out there and try to get these extra software. I don't know. But moving forward, Nintendo has their big announcement. It's the first console that I've been excited to from them since the Wii. The Wii came out, I was skeptical. It was cool, and it definitely worked out, especially when I was in college, because I was college aged when it came out, that I could go ahead and have a device that brought people around the play. It reminded me of the N64, to be honest, where the GameCube was a little bit different. We did have game playing parties my first couple years of college because the Wii came out like my second or third year. I don't remember. But the GameCube brought people around because I was able to get, like, they had a lot of retread and like arcade collections, so people could come over and we could play like Centipede and whatever. And then they could also play like Smash Brothers, Mortal Kombat. I remember we played Mortal Kombat all the time on the GameCube. And it also had a Game Boy reader. I believe that's where I beat one of the Zeldas. It might have been Link's Awakening on this Game Boy reader inside the GameCube. I'm pretty sure that was a thing. It was like an extension tube. And then they also had another disc reader, a smaller one maybe. I don't remember. But I had all the extensions, everything. And Nintendo seems to be the king of having proprietary software. Them and Apple, like Nintendo's in the video game, they're like, we have all these proprietary things that you have to buy. And when you buy their console, like the Wii I was suckered into, I bought a bunch of third-party add-ons. I had the steering wheel. I mean, you can get the third-party set for $20. If you bought it from Nintendo, you would be over $100 buying all these proprietary things. A Wii baseball bat. You put the controller in your handle and it's a bat. Because if you swing a baseball bat, if you played baseball, you know that swinging a short bat is hard once you're used to swinging a longer bat that has the weight, because you balance the weight of the bat with your wrists. So you try to swing a little bat and you don't have a smooth swing. And so Nintendo, they went ahead and they're like, here's an add-on to make sure you have enough room so it doesn't break your TV. Then there was a rifle add-on for the hunting games, which were cool. Those were great party games that brought back days of Duck Hunt. So you had those, but those are more proprietary things you had to buy. And even if you bought a knockoff, they were still extra accessories that you didn't really need to play the game, but yet you kind of did. Some of the games required you to have the motion stick, which was an extra add-on, kind of like the Nintendo 64 expansion pack. For Zelda, I think Zelda needed it. It stabilized and gave you a little bit more control when you're swinging the sword, but yet they didn't build in a left-handed option for Link anyway, so I still had an awkward time playing that game, which is why Skyward Sword was one of the most brutal Zelda games. Not brutal as in hard to beat, brutal as in it sucked to play. It was ass for a left-handed player. So that was not one of my favorite Zelda games. It's still Ocarina of Time. I've played the other ones. Some of the handheld DS games are pretty cool that I've been playing. Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages. I've been playing through that saga. Those are fun. Much better than even Twilight Sword. Skyward Sword's one. Maybe it's Twilight Princess is the other one. I wasn't big fans of those games. And then they announced Breath of Wild. So I'm peaked at this point. When the Switch is coming out, I love Zelda. Here I am. I see a good game. New graphics. You know they had to do the graphics that way. Old cell shading. Because they don't have the hardware announced for the Nintendo Switch yet. And I'm pretty sure that this last week's announcement, if they had some type of specs for it that could even compete with the PlayStation 4 or just be slightly less powered? Because they could. I mean, they could have the specs underneath the hood, even though the resolution came out to be 720p, which is better than I expected because I wasn't even sure they were going to get any high-def graphics out of it. If you look at the 3DS, it's a small screen with poor resolution, and they used the gimmick, the 3D, to draw people in to get one. They need these small gimmicks because they need longer battery life. They go ahead and they have a gimmick set out for you to look at, and they need the battery life. When you have consoles, handheld consoles that used to last days at a time, even your phone now lasts a full day, and then you try to play a video game that only lasts 2-3 hours. I think they said the battery life on the Switch, which came out at this event, 3 hours playing Zelda. And I guess that's not too bad. I highly doubt people are going to be going out traveling unless you're in a car or if you have a long commute. I mean, that does kind of suck if you have to go ahead and be tethered to an external battery port, which we don't even know if that has enough juice to keep the device alive. Because if I'm playing, like when Pokemon Go came out, I had some podcasts about it. If I had a battery pack in, certain batteries would still die. Like my phone would still die even though I was connected to a battery. All that would happen is it would go ahead and limit my loss. So I wasn't losing a second every couple minutes or a percent of battery every couple minutes. I was losing like 1% every 20 minutes or so. And that's because like in the sun, you need the screen on full blast. Otherwise you can't see it. So which makes your battery go faster. And I have feelings that the Switch is going to have the same type of thing. I don't think it would have been cool if they had some type of e-ink on the screen, something like they take into some technology that the Kindle had been great at, having like almost like a Paperwhite. They could do colors with it, because I want to say that the Pebble watches had it, even though Pebble went out of business and I had no idea. That's a topic for another day, because I love the Pebble watch, and they got bought by Fitbit, and Fitbit isn't even going to support them anymore, I don't think. So who knows when my watch is going to quit working one day. But anyway, Nintendo, they didn't have the battery life, which makes me think they're just trying to compete with the tablets. They don't have that technology. They didn't go in another direction, because how many people would have bought it if it was some type of long-lasting battery, like 24 hours, and it used like some type of e-ink so you could read it outside? How many people game outside? Pokemon Go started it. If that's the direction Nintendo wanted to go in, I don't know anyone that sits outside in games, because you can't see the screen. Even the 3DS you can't see. So you have like screens that are out there that if you would go ahead and take advantage of it, break the trend, buck the trend, go ahead out there and make a device that's long lasting and has these new technologies that prints out the different screen type that you can see, it would still look great, because you're not pushing out these high contrast colors with your operating system here if you don't have the specs inside the tablet. But I don't know. But anyway, I was disappointed in the battery life. I'm sure many others were. And they went ahead and dropped the price bomb. I was expecting it to be $200 to $250. The console itself is $300. If it was $200, and I know they already sold out of the pre-orders, but they always undersell pre-sales, so don't worry about them being sold out, because Nintendo always does this. They limit their consoles, and they're like, we'll build hype. So now they can say that it's sold out. Even though if you look at it, like the Wii sold like 600,000 maybe, I think I saw, and then the Wii U sold 400,000, and they were limited so that you couldn't even get it to compete. So now you have the Switch come out, and the Wii I want to say was $250. So the Switch should have been the same price, because the Wii U was considered a failure. They didn't have the games for it. They didn't have the price that could compete right away like they did with the Wii. So they have the Wii U come out at $300, and now they have the Switch come out at $300, which I understand, I guess, the tech behind it. Whatever. They're probably still making a ton of money at $300. And so here you go. You have this console, and immediately you get backlash. And I hate when you go on social media and they have influencers. If you don't know this is a thing, they have people who are verified that have millions of followers. They like tweet out or post ads on Facebook like, great, I'm so pumped for Nintendo. This couldn't have gone any better. And then if you go and click, instead of clicking the top comments on these systems, if you just go through the latest, you can see that everyone else is kind of pissed off. So you cannot just go to the top comments. I know Twitter has it. I'm pretty sure Facebook has it. If you go in on their system and you see what's trending there on Facebook, it's on the right side. It'll be like whatever. So you click on it and it says like, okay, here is what is trending. And most of them are top posts. So you need to find not the top posts, because those are the ones that go ahead and show the ads or whatever from high influencers. It's like I'm looking at it now. There's one about a toy for kids, and you see it's like a verified news station for top. Verified news station. Some mommy's website, some thing. And then they're all just copying and pasting the same article. But Nintendo is able to, you could leverage that as a company. So Nintendo probably went ahead and bought people to go ahead and promote their business for them. Kind of like buying ads, but instead you just message influencers. And I know I've worked for a marketing company. I know people who would come in and intern for us that would go ahead and they have a lot of followers. They'd be contacted by companies. And you see it. I was just looking at one of the NFL players. His Instagram is all ads for some supplement company. So keep an eye out there. Don't be naive that really happens. So there's not a ton of hype for this Nintendo console. Even though it might have sold out, people, because Nintendo knows from their past failures that if they would have went with a Mario title at launch, people don't find a Mario game worthy of go ahead and buy a console. 400,000 isn't a bunch compared to like how many people are in the world if they're trying to sell millions of consoles. But there are probably 400,000 if they limit these. And I don't know what the limit is on Switch. There's been no numbers released. So I'm just spitballing here based on the Wii and the Wii U numbers that if they go with 400,000 again, there's probably that many diehard Zelda fans, because it's like one of the greatest franchises of all time, that would go out and buy it first day just for a chance to get Zelda. Now, will they buy other games for it? I don't know. The rest of the Nintendo announcement was hilarious, because they would show a game, and it would be a game that comes out, and they're like, all right, here's a Mario game, and you can expect to play that sometime during the holiday season 2017. Then the next one comes out. You can expect to play this game maybe in the summer. One company, I think it was Sega, they were like, we don't know. Just look for us in the future. So Nintendo, it's like, are people going to make games anymore? Because for the Wii U and the Wii, it was the same thing. Companies came out and they pledged their support. People don't remember, but I remember buying the Wii, and I was excited because companies pledged their support. And then EA pledges their support. They pledged their support again. And how many Madden games did they make for the Wii? How many NCAA football games? 0 NCAA football games. I don't know when they quit making Madden, but EA didn't. They said they were going to support the console. They even did Medal of Honor. And when they didn't sell, they abandoned it. So don't listen to these companies that say that they're going to support the Nintendo Switch, because you don't know if they are or not. You're better off waiting unless you want that Zelda game. And like I said, if it was at a lower price point, even if it was $300 was a bundle with Zelda, I would have got it. Even though it was sold out, I don't know if I would have been able to get one myself, because I wasn't going to stand in line to get one anyway. But here you go. Now you have a console that's released at a higher price point. And how long does it take to piss off your customer base? Because you have it higher than what everyone expected. There were leaks that it was going to be $215 maybe, $220, whatever, last week. So everyone was expecting it to be $200 to $250. And when they announced it for $300, it was like kind of like a head turner. And you could see online that people were pissed. And they were kind of trying to validate it, like Nintendo. They were like, hey, look, now we have HD rumble in these handheld controllers, which that might be a thing, but it's probably not a real thing. It's probably just rumble, just like the PlayStation 4, their DualShock controller had. It's probably the same thing. You can't have, how much more shock can you get? It's either going to rumble or it's not. They had a guy, he demonstrated pouring a cup of water. Yeah, because that's the type of game I want to play. I want to sit around and pretend to pour a glass of water and then get thirsty. No, I want to go drink if I wanted to drink water, I'll go drink some water. I mean, maybe if you were like playing a bartending game or something, I don't know. I don't know what people play. It's like you're playing Sims, but you're the Sim. And then you like sit around and pretend you have a life in this video game instead of just going out and having a life in the real world. But I don't get it. So they go ahead and they pitch these, and then you get the extra software, the add-ons. Their proprietary software. The price gouging begins. So not only is the device higher priced than everyone expected, now you can go ahead and get more accessories that just add up your cost. So if you want a grip, I don't know if the grip for the controller comes in, that you could throw in. It would charge your controller. No, you have to pay $30 for one that charges a Switch controller itself. So you can go ahead and play them on the TV, and I think that's like the little handle. So if your Switch is in, it's connected to the TV, it's in the dock, and you put your two side handles on the controller that will charge them, it's $30. If you want just the regular Pro controller, which is just a regular handheld Nintendo controller, $70, which is more expensive than the DualShock for the PlayStation 4, which is crazy. Because the PlayStation 4 controllers are $60, it's same price as a game. Now, why would I buy a Nintendo controller for $70? If you even buy the console on that, you're up to $370. It should come with one. I don't see why it wouldn't. Because that's a preferred thing that people want. They want that controller. Now, if you want the actual, they're called Joy-Con. They're the two halves of the controller that connect to the system. They connect to the $30 charging controller station. A set of them, $80. $80 for two halves. Or you can buy one, which I don't know why the hell anyone would buy one. For $49, you can buy a right or a left. Maybe if you broke one, it's a good replacement. But for $50, wow, that's crazy. So all these videos that they had of people playing multiplayer, 4 people playing a game, you would have to buy a controller that's $50 or $80 for a set. So if you wanted to buy, like let's say you wanted to have 3 or 4 players, that's like $200 almost for 4 players. Because you have to buy the charging middle piece. No one's going to sit there and have the controllers in each hand. And if you were going to twist it like the Wii, you have to have a controller that you're comfortable with, because the button placement on the right versus left controller are different. Like they're not symmetrical. You cannot just switch. So you have to buy one or the other. And if you turn it, it's going to have a different feel. So if you prefer one of them and you go to a friend's house to play, you're going to have to buy your own $50 one just to have your preferred controller. Otherwise, you're like, whatever, you might be stuck with the other weird shaped one. And I haven't held one yet. I'm hoping that the stores would have it so that I could go out and take a look at it, maybe do a video and put it up on what it looks like and how it feels in an adult sized hand, because those controllers look small. Knowing like the size and how tall some of those presenters were, you could see like they're shorter than me because I'm 6'2". That controller looks small in their hand. It's going to be dwarfed in my hand. How am I going to play? How's my brother, who's 6'7", going to sit and hold this mini controller in his hand? It's going to feel like it's going to break. And I know Nintendo has a history of having durable stuff, but I was very disappointed in the prices for these. And so you need $80 for a pair. And if you want a dock, which, because they're pitching mobility, if you want a charging dock, like let's say I have one upstairs in my kids' room, and then I have one downstairs on the main TV, and then you can like swap the tablet out and you want to take it upstairs so that they can play Mario or whatever, you have to pay $90 for a new dock. $90. And if you wanted an extra screen, you're back in the whole $30. I don't know if you get controllers with it. I mean, you have to start adding it up to see maybe it would just make sense to buy 2 consoles. But if they were $200, which I assumed, then that would be a good deal. Now you don't have that. And it comes with no games. They had 2 gimmicky games they released. 1 to Switch, which if anyone pays $60 for that, they're pretty much an idiot. Because I know it's like Wii Sports. Like, yeah, you might get fun out of it, but that game is going to be $20 probably by holiday season. That's my bet. At least 30. So who buys that on launch? Because there's only one game to get. You might as well, if you're going to buy the Switch, you might as well just buy Zelda. And unless you're unemployed or in college or a kid, you're not going to sit and have 50 hours to beat that game. It's going to take you a while to beat it. Maybe if you don't go out or do anything, as soon as you come home from work, you play 5 hours a night, and you'll be able to beat it in a week or two. But if you casually play, that game should last you a month or two. And that's really all you need. And maybe by that time Mario Kart comes out. They don't have a new Mario Kart coming out either. They are redoing Mario Kart 8. And that kind of gave me hopes, though, that maybe you'll be able to connect with the 3DS. Because they did announce that they're not killing the 3DS. The Switch is not a competitor. And they want you to go ahead and have both systems. Well, if it's like the Sony PlayStation 4 and the Vita, you can theoretically play the games, I think, on the Vita Wi-Fi maybe. I don't know if that was actually ever made. But they did pitch that as a thing. I just, after being disappointed with the original PSP, and then having to hack it to get games to work because like stupid support, and then they didn't do updates anymore. I haven't really played mine since, and I definitely did not get a Vita. But I was hoping with the 3DS from my holiday excursion that maybe if when they announced Super Mario Kart 8 or whatever coming out, that maybe you'd be able to race against someone in the house, because they did say that the Switch console itself has Wi-Fi compatibility or like local access. I don't know what it uses, but you can go ahead and play against other people in the same room if they have their own console. So that's cool, and that's something that I was hoping that they would have. And then here you go, you have it going back and forth. And why don't they just make the 3DS work? Because they could. They canceled a lot of the online stuff for the 3DS as I've been setting it up. I go through and see what components are still working, and some of them are not. So then you have pretty much a lost system. If they have Mario Kart 8 come out, why not make it connect? Because some of these games, so like here, launch games, Skylanders, 1-2 Switch, Super Bomberman, I think, Just Dance, and Zelda. That's it. Now, coming out in March, the other ones, has been a hero. I think that's like No More Heroes, maybe. Snipper Clippers, some other games. And then in April, you have Mario Kart Deluxe come out. They had a game they showed called Arms, where it's like a boxing game and you jump around. And then finally, you get down Splatoon's in the summer. Splatoon 2, it's a sequel. They are saying, EA said that they're going to have FIFA come out. Minecraft's going to come out for it, which Minecraft's one of the games I think you can play online. But I think that is pretty much on any system. I don't know. I haven't played it. And then for the holiday, Super Mario Odyssey, where he travels around the world. So I don't know. Nothing that really excites me besides Zelda. And Zelda looked good. And they saved it for last. And they had it come out for launch. I knew halfway through, I think I tweeted that it has to be a launch title, because otherwise this is a massive failure. You can't go ahead and have components that cost it's going to be $1,000 if you start to get all these added up. If you start to add in a couple games, no one's going to just buy one game. So you pretty much have to have a grand laying around if you want to invest in the Switch and have it set up for multiple kids at your house. Because as a single player, you're out $300, you're out almost $400 if you add it up, and you want the extra. I don't know if it comes with the charging station, but that's another $30. So let's say $40 just to be conservative, because with taxes, you have $400 right there in the game and in the system for one player and one game. You add another game, that's almost $500. You try to add another controller for Mario Kart in the house, and you're up over $500, $600. And I just don't know the strategy, and I think it's going to bomb. I could be wrong, but once you start adding up all these costs, Nintendo's going to have to drop pricing. They are going to have to drop the pricing. They're going to have to do something to make it worthwhile to buy this system. Because the Wii, you didn't really need to buy extra components. You didn't have to, and no one really did. Maybe for like Rock Band, but that's a kind of a game that you buy for the experience. Doesn't matter what system you're on. I know some of them connect a little bit differently, but you can go ahead and have it, and if you play it, you play it. If not, no big deal. They really didn't care. And now you have a system that's the same thing. They had a great idea. They went ahead. They ruined it with their pricing scheme, and maybe you need it for the components to work, but why have a machine that's way underpowered then? If it's going to cost this much, you might as well have just made it more powerful and had a bundle launch for $500. And then said, we're going to compete with the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox Project Scorpio, because that's basically what they're trying to do now. They don't have it. I was assuming the $200 price point, which is the same as a 3DS XL. I was assuming that if they were going to go ahead and keep the 3DS alive, that you would be able to connect with the Switch. That was always something that I had in the back of my mind. I don't know if I said it on here before, but I had an idea that they were going to go ahead and connect the two devices and then have it with a Nintendo online network. Now, they did announce the online network, and I know I talked about they need to have a Vault store or whatever. It's a paid subscription, kind of like PlayStation Plus. They said you get to play one free game a month. I think one free NES game and SNES game, maybe. I don't know if it's one or the other. And I hope that they make the decision to do it like PlayStation Plus, where you pick a game and you own it and it gets added to your library. Because if they don't, and they just hope people are buying it and then they have to pick one game to play a month, and then that's it, there's going to be extreme backlash on that as well. And they held back all details. They held back the specs. And immediately in Japan, their stock crashed 6% after this announcement. So the investors were not happy either. So it wasn't like they can pay people to go ahead and try to fake hype this machine up, and they're still going to go ahead and sell their small console allotment. I talked to someone, I forget what store I talked to someone at. It might have even been GameStop, because GameStop sold out, where they said that their store had 23, that most stores were getting like 23 consoles a piece, and they might have 1,000 stores. So if you add that up, you might have 200,000 consoles. And then other stores were getting like nothing. I know Walmart said they were getting barely anything because Nintendo doesn't really support them. They barely had any consoles on Black Friday for the 3DS. I think they had 3 at the one I went to. So who's to say that the Switch isn't going to have that many low? And I know that Walmart has a ton more locations than like a GameStop per se. But if they're only getting a certain handful of consoles in and they want people to go in and buy, then they are definitely limiting these to try to build hype. And with the pricing structure, I just don't see it. I mean, I'm assuming that they're going to have a Christmas bundle, and I'm hoping that this Christmas bundle goes ahead and has a $250 price point, or it keeps the original $300 price point and you have a game come with it. Hopefully Super Mario Odyssey. I know they're probably going to do something strange, like it's going to come with Mario decals all over it, and it's going to make it look awful because that's what people want to play with adults. No, they just want the plain bare bones console. The controller colors are awful. It's like a bright baby blue and then a brightish red when it's not like the traditional colors. They could have just did the darker red, a darker blue. I think they had a green for the N64 and a yellow. Keep it traditional. And then have 4 colors. If you only have 2 colors, which I know the colors haven't really been announced, but have 4 colors if you're going to encourage people to have four-player games. Because that's what it was before. You could see, you'd sit down at the N64, look at your port. Okay, I'm the green one. That's plugged into number 3. I know which player I am. And you could do the same thing on the screen. Just have like whatever the colors. Just have it light up there so you know on the screen if you're playing 4-player. Because most people have a huge TV these days. Even like a 48-inch TV playing 4-player split screen Mario Kart, it works. People can't complain and say, oh, I can barely see my guy. Because we would play GoldenEye 4-player on like a 19-inch round CRT pixelated to hell monitor. And so now you have high definition graphics. If they wanted to try to bring it back, they're not going to do it unless like you're playing Mario Kart with only half the controller and then you hope that you get the one that fits your hands the best. I don't know. The controller just seems weird. I guarantee that someone's going to have a third-party controller that has it rounded. They're going to have to make it might be a square, I don't know. But they're going to have the analog stick and the buttons equally spaced on the controller if they're going to try to sell them that you can play a game with half a controller. And I'm sure some third party is going to go ahead and even them out so that you can slide them down. And I understand the concept with like, that's why the analog stick on the right side is down lower. But make the controller smaller. I don't know. Make it so that you can take it off and play. And that's like the Nintendo controller or like a Super Nintendo controller where it has the analog, maybe the D-pad, 4 buttons. I don't know. So I'm going to go ahead and when they start to show up in stores, I'll go out for the podcast, maybe throw up a video on YouTube. Because it's only the middle of January, So they could correct these prices. They could do something drastic. I don't know with the pre-sales coming out that they're going to do that. I think you'll probably see them launch with Zelda here, bite the bullet, see if the sales drop the second week, which I'm assuming they will, drastically. They're not going to have the same hype that the Wii is going to have. I just don't know. And with the price, I was assuming $200 because then you could, as a family, you could buy like 2 or 3 of them to replace the 3DS. And if you didn't want that, if you wanted the 3D component, they still have the handheld that has 3D built in. So you could play the same type of games on either system. That's the direction I thought they were going. They didn't do it. I don't know if they're going to have connectivity between them. They said their online service isn't going to be ready until, who guessed it? I think like holiday 2017. So still quite a while away. But we'll be keeping up to date with that. And as we get some more news, probably on some other consoles, I'll be looking into them and seeing what's going to get you the best gaming experience possible. So thank you for listening. I know today's podcast is pretty much on proprietary software and having accessories. I know I probably threw the word proprietary around a lot when it wasn't applicable with its definition, but whatever. You know what I'm talking about. You know that they're trying to nickel and dime you by adding 100 different accessories onto their systems or onto their machines, whether it be a Mac with a SuperDrive and their extra headphones or whatever, or Nintendo with these extra Nintendo Switch add-ons. But any new news, I'll be tweeting out. So follow me, Richie Leahy, on Twitter. And hopefully you like the new site. We're going to be doing some rankings. I've been building it out. I already did it for the Dad Strength site. We're going to be using ranker.com and having an embed where you can vote up or vote down the newest pieces of technology. And I'll probably do some in the past. But we're going to go ahead and start. We'll do it when the Switch comes out. It might be up a little bit before, but we talk about the Nintendo Switch. And I might have one for video games where you can vote up or down. 100% on the listeners. They can vote, unlike some of these sites where the readers tell you which games are good. I want to know what the listeners actually think are good. So that will be coming down in the future. Look for that. Hope you like the new site. Hope you like the new direction. Check out, do some research on the Nintendo Switch if you want. Come up with your own opinion. Be your own person. Don't listen to these social influencers. And thank you for listening today. You've been listening to Socially Numb with Richie Leahy.